Give your name, what you do or did in real life, and what is your passion about Guilford College?
Okay. I have to say how I came to know Guilford, which was, I grew up in Greensboro, and my father was pastor of First Friends in Greensboro. And so when the time came to go to college, my parents wanted me to come to Guilford, but to live at home. As a 17-year-old preacher's kid, I did not want to live at home. And I wound up, make a long story short, going to Carolina, getting 3 degrees there, an MD and a PhD as well as an undergraduate degree. And then worked as a medical educator, physician, researcher at Indiana University for most of my career before I retired to Hillsborough.
And your passion for Guilford?
My passion for Guilford is, I think it is a fantastic place. I want to see it continue to do the kinds of things that it's done in the past, and I want to see it grow, not just in numbers, but in prestige and accomplishment.
I'm Carol Bruce. In my real life, I'm a partner with the law firm of Smith Moore Leatherwood here in Greensboro, and my shorthand for my speed dating line is I do death and taxes there. And I think maybe the greatest advantage of today will be to learn something about other trustees. Bob's been my friend for years, and I never knew your background, so it's a learning experience for all of us. My passion for Guilford is that I truly believe I have seen examples of my friends whose lives have been changed by Guilford College. And so when I read that Guilford is a college that changes lives, I know it is true, and that is my passion.
My name is Brent McKinney, North Carolina. I live about an hour away. My career was an engineer, about 42 years before I retired, and now I'm an instructor down at A&T State University. My connection to Guilford, and I have 2 connections. One was as a friend. I grew up in a Quaker church, and so we would come to Guilford frequently. We had our yearly meeting here on the campus until 2003, and then I've had 2 children who graduated.
I'm Linda Thorup. I'm an alum of Guilford. I graduated in 1982 as an art major. I come from a family of Guilfordians. My mother, aunt, and uncle were here all in the 50s, and my sister was here in the 80s with me, and I met my wonderful husband here. In addition to that background, we are pseudo-parents of 2 current Guilfordians. Marco Vandalinic, the soccer goalkeeper from Bosnia, lived with us his senior year in high school, and he found Guilford through us and is enrolled here. He's, I think, a senior this year, maybe finish up in December, but then he married Helen Robert Vandalinic, who I know many of you know as well. And so we feel we picked up 2 additional students as Guilford grads. So that part is very exciting for us, and that's really our passion, to have heard about Guilford so much from my mother's experience in the 50s as a Quaker coming from upstate New York, and all that Guilford provided for her, and to see the experience that my sister and I had, very different areas of interest, and to see how Guilford's values and the commitment to family and to an individual student has helped each of us thrive in our careers and our lives. And to watch that again with Marco and Helen, Bryan Dooley, and many of the other students that I know, it just keeps this work really forefront for us.
I'm Nancy Quaintance, and my professional background is that I'm with Quaintance Weaver Restaurants and Hotels, and we're based here in Greensboro. My connection to Guilford College is that I grew up in the community of Guilford College when it was called Guilford College, not Greensboro. It is now part of Greensboro, where I grew up. And if you were not a farmer on our street, you were a professor at Guilford, and I grew up with a revolving door of students in and out of our house and community. So Guilford has always been a part of my life. And I feel passionately about, as Carol mentioned, about the transformative experience that Guilford can be to students. And so that's one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason that I chose to serve as a trustee for Guilford. In my real life, we have many Guilford graduates in our company. They come and go, and we really have enjoyed every one of them. And probably have some current students right now. I know we have several current students in all of our businesses, our restaurants and hotels that are here in the triad. So that's it. I've been on the board for 6 years.
I'm Daryle Bost, and I've been on the board, I think, 7 years. I am a '93 grad from New York. Came down to play lacrosse, play football, realized pretty quickly after the first football season that if I practiced really hard, I might get in by my senior year, so I dropped football and just stuck with lacrosse. My passion for Guilford, as I said, I'm a '93 grad. My wife is a '92 grad, her sister is a '94 grad, her husband's a '95 grad. So we were all here 1 year together, and I think about sort of my life as being pre-Guilford, childhood, and then post-Guilford, adulthood. And so Guilford has, been a part of my adulthood from the beginning. I was having a conversation last night, and my wife and I hit that weird number where we have now been together longer than we were apart. 23 years, which is pretty amazing because I don't look that old, right?
I'm Lionel Johnson, and I'm from Washington, D.C. My day job, I'm the Senior Vice President of an organization called the Initiative for Global Development, and I've been involved in international affairs my whole career, 31 years, and based in Washington with assignments overseas in the U.S. State Department. I was introduced to Guilford through my two children. They're not children anymore, but they're my offspring. Alicia, who graduated in 2010, and Christopher 2 years later, 2012. They were passionate about their time here, and I was very, very interested in helping to support this institution beyond their graduation, which is why I'm here today, and I'm delighted to be with all of my colleagues. I think in terms of my own passion about the institution is the critical thinking that Guilford instills in its students, and I certainly see it in those who have come through these halls and continue to inspire me and those that I know who care about Guilford. And I'm very happy to see that particular set of attributes is very well rooted in the two children that I am proud to be a parent of. So I'm delighted to be here, both as a trustee and as a parent of two Guilfordians.
I've already said my name is Joe Bryan. I'm class of 1960, and I've been on the board now for over 40 years, and I'm going off the board this year. So to let you know, I served under 5 presidents. And the first one was Clyde Milner, who happened to be so kind, which Guilford still does today. He gave me a second chance in a higher education. And my passion is that this is a great institution. It's something that Greensboro is very proud of, and we're all proud of the people who come here. And I think that we're headed in the right direction. We've got our problems, and we're going to find out how to create and eliminate those problems. But it is a serious situation now in higher education, and I hope y'all all have some very good questions to ask, because we don't know all the answers, but we hope we can give you what you want to hear. Thank you very much.
Academic Affairs Committee has responsibility for oversight, if you will, of the academic mission of Guilford from the level of the board, which is meant to be a high level, not detailed management. We have a liaison from the school who is the dean for academic affairs, and the kinds of things that we look at the different academic programs. We look, and this includes different departments, but again, from a very high level. How is the department doing? How are its faculty doing? What are their accomplishments? What are their problems? things that we should be concerned about in terms of a particular faculty. We look at overreaching programs like the prioritization of the different majors and departments that occurred recently. But that wasn't our responsibility. We just reviewed it, asked questions of the administration, try to clarify in our own minds what's going on, and then pass it on. We also review all tenure appointments and all promotions for faculty.
Again, I'm Carol Bruce, and I serve as the chair of the Finance Committee, and also serve as a member of a related committee, the Investment Committee, and they're very closely tied, and we don't have anyone from the Investment Committee, so I'll speak briefly about both. The main job of the Finance Committee is to monitor the financial viability, financial future of Guilford College. One of our principal roles is to receive the recommendations from the campus budget committee, which meets almost year-round, a broad community-based committee that works on the college's budget. We review those recommendations and make a recommendation to the full Board of Trustees on the budget. We make a recommendation, which we'll be making at this weekend's board meeting, on the tuition rates, tuition, room and board fees rates for the coming year. Again, we review the information that's been generated by the campus committee and then make a recommendation to the board. We also look at the longer range financial viability of the college. If we do these things, what will the financial future of the college be? And so we do try to look at, as Bob has already said, at a policy higher level, but we have a very serious duty to make certain that we're financially viable. A large part of the financial stability of this college, and of any college, is its endowment and its invested funds. And the role of the investment committee is to review, to set the investment guidelines, investment policies, and work with our outside investment counsel to see that those investment policies are being carried out and monitor the investment returns of the college. You probably would be interested in knowing that we do have a distribution from the endowment equal to 5% of the last 12 months rolling average balance in the endowment fund. That's probably as technical as we'll get, but it is, 12 quarters, 3 years. But that payment, over $3 million a year, goes a long way towards supporting the budget of the college. It would be far better if the endowment were much larger and we were able to make larger distributions from the college's endowment to the operating budget and other budgets of the college. It would reduce some of the stress on both our tuition level and expense control. But I thought that those two committees are the ones that really do try to monitor the financial health and viability of the college.
Brent McKinney, the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee. I have been on the board for 10 years and will be rotating off this year. As you might just guess from the title of the committee, Strategic Planning, we focus on the long-term goals of the college. And within long-term views, there's a lot of factors to keep your eye on. And everything needs to stay in balance in order for the college to run well. But we all know that doesn't happen. There are trends, there are short-term things that happen that we need to respond to. I'm talking about economic turbulent times, decrease in admission, changing in trends and what society needs so our graduates can get a job. Keep our eye on those. Let me begin enumerating some of them. The viability of the college is really dependent a lot on the admissions. We need a good sized freshman class, a certain size freshman class to come in every year, because we are prepared to to educate that number. We know that we're going to have some dropouts. We know we're going to have some transfers. So our admissions is very important. Whenever we come short in admissions, and we're short in funding for our staff, which needs to be paid whether all the desks are full or not. Whenever we have small class, then we need to, we turn to our endowment. Endowment is kind of like the shock absorber on the vehicle. But our endowment is small for a small college. We'd love for that to be a little bit larger so we can depend upon it. If we don't have a large endowment, that's one of our goals, to increase that, then we have to turn to cutbacks, which is not desirable. However, we can also turn to tuition. That's not desirable either. So we have all these pressures coming to us whenever we have turbulent times, which we're in. We certainly have some trends going on now that we need to be looking a little bit longer term. Currently, we have a horizon of 5 years on our strategic plan. We're about halfway through our current plan. One of the things that we're talking about in our committee is how long should a strategic plan be? Perhaps it should be a little bit longer than 5 years. Perhaps we need to look at these trends and what the impacts might be, what the alternatives might be, how we could respond to whenever these challenges come along. Long-term views, and I guess strategic plan, I just sum it up by saying keeping a balance so the vehicle continues to roll smoothly. I don't want to leave out the staff, how important the staff that you see every day and how well they do when you go and sit in their classes. That's always something that we can adjust as well. But if we don't maintain our staff, then the quality of education goes down. If we raise our admission standards, then that too could be the result. And then we're not the college that we want to be to produce high quality students that get high paying jobs and meet the demands of the marketplace that's out there. It's a little bit complex, a little bit complicated, but the main thing is just keep your eye on all of the trends and factors that are happening in all of these communities.
Yeah, and I'm Linda Thorup, and I didn't fail to tell you what I do outside of Guilford College. I'm a commercial interior designer and space planner in Winston-Salem. I too came on the board in 2004 and will rotate off this year along with Brent and several other trustees. My role currently is chair of Trusteeship and Governance. This committee is different than many of the others because it's a very internal committee, internal focus, but our primary responsibilities are to identify our needs for new trustees in terms of qualities, skills, qualifications, all the various aspects that they would bring to the board, to identify individuals that meet those needs and to recruit those individuals. Trustees, there are people who have been successful, who are good candidates for trustees, are often sought after by many other boards. And we also want to be sure that the trustees that come on truly have a passion for Guilford. It's not just filling a seat, checking a box, but we want to be sure that they are able to really contribute to Guilford in many different ways. We identify, we recruit, we ask, invite them to join the board, and we usually invite 2 to 5 people a year, depending on those that are out there and what our needs are. Once they're on the board, we work to orient them. We had orientation today. We have new trustees come in October, and so we have a 2 to 3 part orientation. Each new trustee has a mentor because it's a new experience for them. We even have some returning trustees that have mentors because they've been off the board for a few years, and things change in that time. So just like your freshman orientation, we try to be sure that they are acclimated to the work that's being done. We also assess trustee performance. We do self-assessments, and then we do board evaluations. About every other year, we do a full board evaluation where we look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, what we could do better, what we need to improve on, and various ways that we might need to make changes or continue doing what we're doing. And then we assess the bylaws periodically as needed, and just review overall trustee performance. So it's an important committee, as all of them are, but it's very satisfying to see new trustees come in. We do have term limits. Now they are 3 4-year terms. So a new trustee would be expected to serve for 12 years. But that, we didn't used to have that rotation. And that was a very beneficial aspect when that was added, because it's important to bring in new ideas, new people, and new perspectives to the board.
Again, I'm Nancy Quaintance, and I serve on the Buildings and Grounds Committee as the vice chair. Pete Cross is our chair, and he's not here today. We work with John Daryle and his crew to oversee the buildings and grounds for the college, and part of that is to make sure that we have safe and attractive facilities to attract new students, and to make sure that those who are here are comfortable and safe. And we help John with his capital expenditures and help him consider how to handle things like deferred maintenance and long-range campus plans and that sort of thing. So that's buildings and grounds. It's pretty obvious. Maintenance on our facilities is what we have to do to take care of the buildings and the grounds that we have. And sometimes we don't always have the ability to spend the money that we want to spend or need to spend every year, so we have to defer that. So when you consider your deferred maintenance, you're considering what you're spending to take care of your facilities on an ongoing basis, both what you spend in that year and what you defer to spend in another year. So that combined with what your capital expenditures, and your capital expenditures are the money that you spend, your capital that you spend on your facilities, not your maintenance, but what you would spend to build something or do something more significant.
So I apologize for leaving off my work, but my work does relate really well to my role as chair of the advancement committee. So as of today, I'm retired, which is cool. I left my job after 8 years today, and I'm retired for a full week. I start my new job on Monday. I am going to be raising major gifts internationally for Williams College up in Williamstown, Massachusetts. For the last 8 years, I've been sales director at a pretty big law firm headquartered here in North Carolina. So raising money for the law firm, if you will. Before that, I was raising money at Johns Hopkins and at Wake Forest. So development is sort of in my blood, and I get it. So advancement is raising money. My job is to help Mike Poston and his team come up with a plan each year for going after the dollars that are so critical to Guilford continuing to function. As you heard from Brent, tuition and fees doesn't cover everything. We need to raise money every year, both in annual fund dollars as well as bequests and other types of gifts. And if you can imagine, or every other college and university, high school, especially if they're private, junior high school, church, they're all in a capital campaign of some kind. They're all raising money. They're all right now trying to figure out how are they going to dig deeper into the pockets of folks up here and your pockets and all those kind of things. So our challenge is making sure that we cultivate the relationships with our alums, families, friends of the college, such that Guilford gets to the top of the list. So that each year when they decide the gifts that they're going to be making, Guilford is the largest gift. Guilford is the one that they think of first, because those dollars are critical to our success. And so we come up with plans for cultivation events, going around the country and internationally, meeting with, again, families, alums, making sure that they understand all the great things that are going on here on campus, and that they feel sort of the connection back to the school, and that hopefully we strike a chord and they see something that they want to invest in, whether it's faculty support or scholarships, thank you. As you can tell, I am retired. Mine is elsewhere. But, you know, I think it's an amazing process that we go through, and I love the work, and we do have a great team. Just some numbers. Last year, we raised a little over $8.4 million. That's in annual fund as well as bequest. Year before that, and so we're up. Year before that, we raised $6.9 million. And just some numbers, our alumni give around 14%. 14% of our alumni give. We need to work on that, and that's something that we are working on. Just so you also know, sort of national average, a really good number for most colleges and universities is mid-20s. Mike, is that right?
Correct.
The place I'm going, Williams, and this is why I'm going there, so I can get a clue and bring it back here. 65% of their alumni give. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. They're a little rabid, and so I'm not sure what's going on there. But anyway, those are just sort of some national numbers and sort of where Guilford fits in.
I chair the Student Affairs Committee. Esther serves as the vice chair, and together we, I think we probably have one of the most fun experiences because it's perhaps is the one committee that focuses exclusively on the student experience at Guilford. And so we have as our administration liaison the Dean of Students, who you all know and love, Aaron Fetro, who keeps us apprised of some of the critical issues affecting student life on campus and ways in which the Board of Trustees can and should engage and to try to bring about change where that's important or to encourage dialogue. Some examples of that over the 6 years or so that I've been on the board, we have dealt with issues of alcohol use on campus. We have participated in the decision to go to a no tobacco policy here on campus. That was something that was taken up early on in my tenure on the committee and on the board. More recently, as a matter of fact, last fall, we had a full review with Aaron's help of the college's policy on dealing with sexual assault on campus, which is an important issue not only here at Guilford, but at colleges and universities around the United States. We also deal with some of the more interesting and fun things about improving the environment here. More recently, we have been very supportive of the effort to bring the campus to a wireless capacity with the support of the Community Senate and the Student Government Association. We're able to do that, supporting advancement teams' efforts to upgrade and improve dramatically the website, which I think actually improves everybody's experience here at Guilford, including trustees. And we continue to look for ways to help the students as they move through these 4 years have a better experience overall, treat one another with respect. We look at ways in which the various communities interact and try to do everything that we can to continue to improve that experience. And then finally, we want to continue to support the efforts of the college to help Guilford graduates find great opportunities of employment outside of this institution. And so we engage the faculty and administration on issues related to those kinds of issues.
I'm just going to throw something out for y'all that it affects every one of us up here in our committees. 2 years ago, the North Carolina legislature took $2.5 million out of our budget, and that affected the continuing education dramatically. That's why we've had a lower number of students in continuing education. And now we also have to, Carol has to go find out, all right, how do we take that into the budget consideration? That goes on with Bob, with faculty. So this is something we're struggling with right now. It's not an easy road to hoe, and so we are working very hard on all these things.
A couple of folks who weren't able to be with us today, I don't want to leave out their committees. David Hood is the class of '84, and I'll just try to explain what the audit committee does. it's a real sleeper to me, but he loves it. He's on this board because he's a math major and he only had, an accounting major, and he only had 3 people in his classes, so he got a lot of attention. He's now a partner at a major firm in Raleigh. To make sure that there is always transparency in looking at our finances, we have a requirement by the IRS to have a separate audit committee. And so his job is to make sure that we put bids out for auditors, so there's rotation there, and that there is a separate committee that, should there be any whistleblower issues, if anybody thinks anything is wrong, this is the committee that would hear those concerns, and those folks would be protected, so there'd be no retaliation. So it's ensuring that we always have auditors, that there is freedom to express any concerns, that the audit is approved by outside people, and then the entire board is required to review the audit. How'd I do, Carol?
Good work.
Pretty good? Yeah. Okay. So Dave, I think David's probably at work, so that's why he's not here. Andy Staginski, who is a parent, does the investment, and Carol covered that. And I'm so disappointed that Hector isn't here. He chairs Quaker Life, and that's a very dynamic committee. They are vitally concerned about the core values of this college and the way that affects what happens for your lives every day. And I think it goes without saying that we're all completely dedicated to you as students, and that's why we serve. For those of us who had the privilege of having the Guilford experience, we are rabid, and we want to make sure that you had the same kind of experience that we were privileged to have. So it's very much about students. Okay, so now if you had $100,000 to donate to Guilford, what would you use it for?
Well, you're picking the wrong person, I think, for that.
Just pretend you have $100,000.
I donate it to support faculty research because I think that's a very important part of what gives faculty satisfaction and keeps them sharp in their discipline.
The same question?
Yeah, sorry.
I think I would, what I have done, I would give to the undesignated endowment fund. I believe that over the long term, the college needs to have the flexibility, because as Joe's just pointed out, 2 years ago, we were whammed by the state legislature. We don't know where the next big challenge is coming. The college, I believe, needs undesignated endowment funds that can be used to meet needs as they develop over time. And so that would be my decision.
We're all going to answer the same one.
Yeah, I'm just dying to know.
I think I would use that few dollars.
Yes.
It's not that much, it's not going to go far. But I think I would use that to help our faculty. I know we're behind in our obligations there. I think we need to stay focused on the quality of the product because that affects the very beginning. That affects our reputation. That affects our the way we're perceived in the community by our alumni and by those who would help us in other ways. So that's one area that we can't get behind in that. I believe I'd start there.
Well, there are so many different areas that come to mind. I served on building and grounds for many years, and so there's a lot there. But I will say student scholarships, just because my husband benefited directly from that, and I've seen the other students that I know and care about be able to be at Guilford in part because of some of that institutional funding that has come through, in addition to many other gifts and areas of support.
This is a really hard one. I think that I would probably give it to undesignated endowment funds. And one of the reasons that I would do that is if we have more endowment dollars, then I can free up dollars out of my budget that are spent. And I can spend elsewhere, and I can spend that in places that I want it. So the larger the endowment, the more money I have on an ongoing basis. So I would probably wish for more endowment funds.
So hopefully you all are sensing that this is one of those areas that we spend a lot of time on in the trustee meetings. And I honestly feel like I have a huge bullseye on my, at almost every meeting, because this comes up and it's, Daryle, what are we doing? Harvard got 150 million yesterday. Where's Guilford's? Personally, $100,000, I want it to go into the annual fund, because I think that's the place that the administration could immediately use it to increase faculty salaries, give some bonuses, whatever it happens to be. If it were $100 million, yes, I'd want it to go into the endowment. If it were $500,000, probably endowment. But you know, somewhere under that, personally, I'd want it to go into the annual fund so we can use it and go ahead and affect some people today.
It might be a little bit different from the others here. I guess if I had an extra $100,000, I would use it as a way of leveraging foundation and corporate support for an effort to clean up the lake.
He's going for Best Trustee of the Year award.
Such a brown noser. Ask Aaron, he was thrown into it.
He jumped.
Well, Daryle, you actually have the best answer, because you said $100,000. And otherwise, I would go along with Carol and put it in undesignated, unrestricted funds to the endowment.
Joe, can I see that for a second? I left off, I want, Mike, what is the, just, I think it's an interesting figure, and I can't recall, but what is the total amount of giving of the trustees?
During the campaign or last year?
Last year.
Yes.
During the campaign.
How about both, if you happen to know? I just can't recall.
The campaign that we're just ending in June is 18.1 million, and last year it was 1.13 million.
So 18.1 million through the campaign for all 26 or so trustees, and then just last year, 1 point whatever. So my point is that I think that illustrates that you've got some trustees that are committed to the college, and you know, we do have this discussion and this argument quite a bit, but it's healthy.
Helped me point out that I overlooked that Quaker Life and Diversity is the title of that committee, and so there's real intentionality about what the student body looks like and ways that we can be faithful to our Quaker heritage. I think, Linda, is there a percentage of Quakers that need to be on the board?
Yeah, we're 51%. We need Quakers, either members of a yearly meeting or to live their life in faith and practice, which most of us trustees, if not all of us, do anyhow. But we do really look for people that not only are Quakers and live that out each day, but or if they're not, they could understand and readily embrace so many of the values of Quakerism.
Search committee has been at work for a number of months. I was asked by Joe Bryant to chair the committee, and he also appointed 14 other members of the committee. There are 4 trustees, 1 trustee emerita, I think 3 faculty members, 3 staff members, 2 students, the chair of the Board of Visitors, the chair-elect of the Alumni Association. We believe we have a very representative committee, and we have been working together very well. Our first duty was to accept the charge from the Board of Trustees. So we have a very specific written charge for our activities. And then our first official step was to engage a search firm. They're a national firm that specialize in finding college and university, as well as many others, but some are very focused on college and university, deans, presidents, chancellors. And we've been very pleased with the consulting firm Witt Kiefer we worked for. Then the next step was for us as a group, and this was a very dedicated process, was to write a presidential specification, or what you might call in the real world a job description. We also tried to describe Guilford College, and we've published that description very, very broadly over the last 3 months or so. I'm pleased to tell you we have over 90 applications in our pool. We have some incredibly good nominated and self-applied applications. I'm very, very pleased. Our committee will meet within the next few days to select approximately, and everything is, there's a little bit of room and all that, approximately 10 of those candidates that we will interview face-to-face in the Greensboro area in mid-March. From those interviews, we will select and recommend at least, and this is very carefully worded in our charge to our committee, we will select at least 3 very well qualified candidates for the next president of Guilford to recommend to the Board of Trustees. And again, we hope to do that by the middle of March. At that point, the Board of Trustees will, in effect, take over the process, being supported by the committee as needed, to arrange to interview those recommended candidates. And we hope that, it is our fervent hope, that will be an open campus interview that would include students, faculty, staff, alum, community people would have a chance to meet those candidates. I must tell you, though, we are advised by our search consultant and another search consultant and the general reading that sometimes very, very well qualified candidates are limited in their open campus, in their ability to engage in an open campus interview process. And since our goal is to come up with the absolute best qualified candidate, we've spent some time talking about what if we have such a candidate who has valid, understandable reasons for saying, I'm sorry, I want to be a candidate, but I'm not in a position to participate in this open process that I just described. We're told that the most likely candidate for that sort of a situation is someone who is currently a sitting president at another institution. I don't know that we're going to have that situation, but we are committed to finding the very best candidates, and if we do, we will work with that person and the other candidates to have what's been discussed as something of a hybrid process. I can't tell you exactly what that would be, but it would be more open certainly than just interviewing with trustees, but we'll have to understand the absolute necessity for confidentiality if we're faced with that situation. The Board of Trustees, and I do believe it's already been said today, the most, without question, most important duty of any governing board is the selection of the chief executive officer of the institution for which you're serving. And so I firmly believe that this is the most important duty of our Board of Trustees, is to make this final selection. We're being as inclusive as we know how to be in these conversations that we hope the candidates will have, and they'll certainly have some conversations in any event. We'll ask for feedback from those people who met with the candidates. We'll have some formal questions. We'll ask for you to give feedback if you're in a position to talk with those candidates. And I'm sure that feedback will be considered by the board in its deliberations. But the hope is that by Joe is chair, mid-April, we will have an announcement of the next president of Guilford College.
Carol, I had 2 follow-up questions, if I could just, and so did you say there are 2 students on the committee?
Yes.
And do you know how they were selected?
It's the president of the, I don't have these titles exactly right, the traditional students lead person, chairperson, and the CCE chairperson.
Okay, all right, great. And then, if you, the question was, how will you ensure student representation if the search is closed? I know that's a tough one.
That is a tough one, and that's not my decision, so I
Okay.
can't say how I will ensure it. I do believe that we will do our best to broaden the group as much as possible. Probably, again, this is not my decision, this is one person's thought here, and as you've seen, we have some varying decisions on this, varying opinions on this board, and we do talk until we come to consensus, but we have raised the possibility of adding maybe a written confidentiality agreement to be signed by one or two people to broaden the group to the extent possible. So that would be one way of doing it.
Nancy?
I can give you a perfect
Please, Joe.
example
Yeah.
of the closed meeting, of closed selection. A perfect example is which just happened, and that's the president of Florida State University was elected president of Brent State, and that was a closed situation.
And I can give you a real world. So I was recruited by Whit Kiefer at the same time that we engaged Whit Kiefer for our presidential search. And I had to have, when I went to campus for the final round of interviews, and I wasn't just doing the fly into the airport interviews in Boston, I had to have it, confidential, because can you imagine if I rolled into campus and I'm meeting 50 people and students and all those kind of things, and somebody, just happens to post on Facebook, made this great guy from Womble Carlisle, he might be our next, major gift officer or whatever, and somebody who happened to have gone to Williams sees that and goes, "You're leaving Womble?" And I'm done. And I wish that weren't the case, but my firm would have there are certain people at my firm that would have pretty quickly gone, "Well, you're not committed to this firm." So that's just real. And it's unfortunate, and we're going to try to avoid that, but that's sort of what we're dealing with.
How would you approach effectively building and sustaining a communicative relationship between the Board of Trustees and the student body? One that resulted in decisions and changes as opposed to just discussion. I want to get a chance to reflect for a second. I think that meetings like this are a great starting point for that. We already have in place a pretty decent mechanism for engaging the student body here, both through embodied in the two student government associations, the CCE, Student Government Association, and the Community Senate. And student participation in our committees, most of the committees of the board, which we meet 3 times a year, I think is a very effective way to have student input and to relay the deliberations of the Board of Trustees. The leaders of the 2 associations participate in our board meetings 3 times a year, and so they are able to, through their responsibilities, provide readouts to the communities about our work. But I think that, to going into the real essence of this question, I think we're looking for ways to bring down, a veil or a barrier between elements of the overall Guilford community, and particularly the students and the Board of Trustees. And a meeting like this, which I would like, my own personal view would be to make this a regular occurrence, something that we do, not just on a one-off. It doesn't have to be 3 times a year, but some regular gathering where at least once a year, once academic year, we have an opportunity to engage and to have a meaningful dialogue on the issues facing the college, challenges, and the opportunities that we will all be facing together.
There's a very thoughtful question about diversity, and it's not that I want to avoid the question. My preference would be that it be answered by the chair of the Quaker Life and Diversity Committee, who isn't here. Daniel, you're shaking your head.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I think that kind of question can be answered to anybody on the board.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm trying to be really liberal in these questions. Okay. So here we go with the real life question. Okay, when diversity, a core value, is discussed around campus, it is always a racial subject. For example, There's data that's been cited about skin color definition, inherently racist metric, whatever. Meanwhile, only 10% of our student body is conservative. Some believe we ostracize these potential students. If we are truly to believe in diversity, does not diversity of opinion strengthen our education? And in what ways will you ensure we stop being racist by using racial paradigms to further diversity? I hope the author of the question feels that I could read your handwriting appropriately. Does anybody want to try to take a first stab at that? After a moment of reflection.
It is a powerful question, and so again, remember what my sort of frame of reference is, and where I start most of my thinking on things. I think that one of the ways to, and I think there's going to be lots of different ways to get at this issue. But one of the ways is to make sure that when we're going out to attract students and families to Guilford, we are doing a really effective job of conveying who we are as a college to potential students. So making sure that we do a better job of conveying that we are a really diverse community of students and faculty and different thoughts, and doing a better job of reaching out to a more diverse sort of pipeline, if you will, of students and potential students as it relates to applying to Guilford. What I started to say at the very beginning of my comment was I think that a lot of that has to do with funding. And I think if we have more dollars, then we're able to, and in this respect, I'm talking about socioeconomic, but it's not just there. But I think if we're able to offer more dollars to a more diverse group of potential students, then the student body is going to become more diverse, and we're also able to, if we have those dollars, able to reach out to a more diverse faculty group as well that maybe might have a more diverse sort of thought. That's it. Yeah, and I don't want to touch that one. Look at that.
Anybody else want to comment?
Just a comment on that, and then I'll move on. And I say that I don't want to touch that just because I most recently was in a legal environment, so 550 lawyers in 14 offices in I think 9 states or something like that. Pretty white law firm, and we struggle with diversity. And one of the things that we struggle with also is this same issue, we've got a large percentage of the leadership that sees diversity specifically as black and white, and that's it. And you've got a lot of people that are at the firm trying to help our leadership understand that it's not just black and white. It's black, white, thoughts, socioeconomic, it's sexual orientation, it's all of those things. And it's not just we need more black lawyers. But that's a challenge because that's sort of, I think, unfortunately, what most people of a certain age are used to, and we've got to change that. And I honestly don't have the answer for how you change that, other than having lots of discussions and helping people understand that diversity isn't just we need more black, whatever.
Just add one thing. We had a discussion with Andy in admissions, and he reminded us that you all are not far away from this, but students looking at Guilford are 17, 18, and come, with a smaller amount of perspective. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of growth that comes from being on campus and being in this environment. But I know from my children looking at schools and their friends, generally people want to be in a place that feels like them and that it feels comfortable and that there are other people like them. Sometimes that's a really good thing. It's good to understand where you're coming from and what you understand and what is a comfort level for you, but obviously it's important to put yourself in a position where you can grow. So that's one of the challenges, is every college has, you know, has a look and a feel to it. And so I think it's really your job as students, as much as the trustees and the faculty, to help students broaden that scope. You know, I personally know diversity means a lot more than skin color, because I have a child with physical handicaps and have watched her navigate through things. And, you know, there are so many differences that are not as visible as that. And certainly political differences, but these are also things that you'll encounter when you get out in the workforce, and that you have to learn how to navigate and deal with. And it may not always be as an environment where you can be as open and as forthright with your concerns as you can be here at Guilford. So enjoy and take advantage of the opportunity to be able to voice your opinion and your concerns and your thoughts about that, and use that to really learn how to deal with the real world and the workplace and your community when you get out.
I'd like to comment, and I'll be brief. There's so many things that we could say about it. Thank you for my colleagues for your comments as well. The college is under a lot of competitive pressures. Competition from other schools in our peer group, and we're under some pressures from schools that are not in our peer group. If we look at today's society, mom and dad are looking to put their children through higher education, and oftentimes it depends on what they can afford. If they could have afforded a private institution in the past, perhaps now they're sending their children to state-supported four-year schools. The ones that sent their children to those colleges are now sending them to community colleges. So community colleges are bursting at the seams, and we have a need from this competitive edge for our students in order to exist and keep everyone in. That's the business that we're in. We've been in this business since it was New Garden boarding school. Okay, so that being the backdrop, I think a diverse campus is really a place to be. What a wonderful goal. Wouldn't it be a great goal for all of society that we could set aside these differences and move on? I understand the culture, the color discussion, but it is much deeper than that. Just go into a program Quaker meeting sometime and look around. You'll see all the fundamentalists, the evangelists, the liberals, the conservatives, the silent seekers, and we're all there, different opinions. But we have such a nice setting here on the campus at Guilford, and I think that's the distinctive that we have. And that distinctive can set us apart from our competition. And something that we are very much aware of on the board is that we need to maintain that diversity on our campus as a competitive edge, that we can use that in our efforts to maintain the college as viability. I want to put in a plug for our Quaker principles. We can talk about all the diversity and problems that we face, but there are those Quaker principles that hold us together, and we should never take our eye off of them. In sports term, we keep our eye on the ball. Never give up. Hold your cards close, and that is live those lives of simplicity. Seek peace in all that we do, because nothing good is ever going to happen out of chaos and turmoil. Be people of integrity. Enjoy the community that we have, and above all, this is my favorite, is equality. That being a goal of life, and hopefully every student will pick that up here and spread it wherever we go. So it's something that we're very much aware of.
Nancy got a specific question for building and grounds. Are you comfortable?
I'll answer as best I can. I don't know that I have a specific answer. It's actually two questions that I got. The first one is, in a time of budget shortage, how was money found to eliminate classrooms in order to build offices for poli-sci? I don't know all the particulars about the classrooms for the political science office. I don't think there were any capital dollars that we diverted in order to do that, nor were there deferred maintenance dollars that were diverted to do that. So one of the things that I will say is that on the Buildings and Grounds Committee, we don't micromanage what our team at Guilford does, what John Daryle and his department do. We can help him as he makes decisions, and as the administration and our president make decisions on how to budget for the future and that sort of thing. So we don't get involved in any of the specifics about how we find money for one project or the other. And the second question is there any project to improve upperclassmen spaces, and I think this is North and South apartments in Bryan, that are not necessarily seen by the prospective students? And that does fall into the deferred maintenance category. And so yes, there are plans to spend money as it's needed in all of the areas of campus. And we have to prioritize those projects. We can't spend it all at once. So the projects do need to be prioritized, and there is a plan to do that. And I don't know where in the category of prioritization that one falls, but I know it's on the list of things to consider.
If you had a chance to teach a class at Guilford, what department would you choose, and what would your class be called?
I'm an engineer, and I would teach a class in math, and it would be the ultimate.
I would teach a class in microbiology.
Well, I would like to see a class taught. I don't know if I'd be the best one to teach it, but I could certainly contribute in managing a small business, because there's so many opportunities now for students to even come right out of school and pursue some aspects of that. And when you're in a small business, there's so many different things that you've got to be dealing with: sales, accounting, marketing, the whole bit, in addition to doing that particular job. So that was something that I wish that I had had more of when I was here.
I would teach a class in values-oriented leadership.
I'd like to teach a class in entrepreneurship. And I'll give you a perfect example which just happened, I think yesterday or today, that Facebook just bought WhatsApp for $19 billion. Well, you may be happy to know today on Fox News, they informed us that the two people who started this firm, one applied to Twitter, was turned down. The other one applied to Facebook and was turned down. So there is a chance out there. And one thing about entrepreneurship is that's one thing about America that you can always do. There is room for people to succeed, and only you stop yourself succeeding.
First off, I want to thank everyone for coming. It's good to see so many students come on a day when we all have class. I know a lot of you are skipping classes. People had to sneak out at the end to back their studies. But it is really good to see people come out. I know this is the first of our events, but this feels like a very important starting point. I'm really hoping that this will set a standard of increased communication. I think it's really good to put faces to the names of people who put so much time into our college. I think students really care about this place. We're starting our love for this place. We've only had, at most 4 years, but I've already fallen in love with this place. I know a lot of the students here have, and I believe that we deeply care about this place, that we have a lot of concerns and hopes and dreams for this place, and we're really excited to get all the opportunities to talk to the people who have a lot of experience in helping those dreams and hopes and aspirations come to fruition.
I'm going to be a little bit shorter than Samir, and First off, I really wanted to thank all of you for coming and taking the time to speak with us here. And actually, thank you so much for moderating. Thank you. Enforcing. And actually letting me have a chance at the microphone. Thank you so much. But I also wanted to thank you as well for coming out, and the addition of the other trustees as well. Thank you very much for coming out. As Samir has said, we are looking forward to breaking the ice a little bit, and hopefully that this will continue. And thank you all very much for your questions. I really enjoyed hearing the answers as well. So I'm sure this is the point that you guys have been waiting for, and that is there's food out there, and we would love to have you enjoy it. And I have been honored with this. We are going to close with a moment of silence.